as it sells broken Bidenomics to the American people. But are you buying? I don't know about that. They aren't doing a very good job because Americans aren't getting fooled.
Bidenomics, Biden's formula for strong economic growth from the bottom up, is not only driving a surge in the U.S. economy and a boom in large-scale infrastructure, it's so much greater than even the experts in economic stuff expected it to be.
Look at the numbers, and Bidenomics is working.
From the perspective of economic management, dealing with what's dealt you, President Biden is just not getting the praise he deserves. The best economic performance of any president since Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
I'm going to tell you the truth. I think Joe Biden has a better story to tell for re-election than Obama did.
What? I want what they're having. It's not even New Year's Eve yet. My God, a new Fox News poll tells a little different story. An astounding 66% of people said that 2023 was a year to forget for our country. Only a quarter of Americans thought it was a good year. Even residents in Biden's hometown of Scranton, Pennsylvania, have had enough.
This economy sucks. I mean, everything's going up, except, paychecks.
It's tougher for people, So how could he be seeing it through our eyes if, it's just gotten tougher, I feel like, for everybody.
I don't think any of them see it through the eyes of the people. I think they all see it through the eyes of Washington. I think it's gotten worse. I'm a registered Democrat, but I'm not happy.
Okay, there you go. Registered Democrats.
Not happy.
And that is someone who voted Biden into office. I mean, this is a perfect example of buyer's remorse.
Well, elections have consequences, and unfortunately, we are all living through them right now. Now, to be fair, 2023 didn't see the recession that this time last year everyone was warning about, which is, okay, so let's celebrate that, I guess. But that doesn't mean that we should go out there and start celebrating this Bidenomics. It doesn't matter how many times they continue to say Bidenomics. It doesn't mean things are peachy keen. Bottom line is you still have the costs of things are still very high. Yes, they're not increasing at the same rate, but it's still the cost of goods are still 3% higher than they were last year. People are not feeling the benefits. Yes, you're starting to see some mortgage rates come down, but the costs of living, your utilities, your mortgages, everything is just so unaffordable for the American people right now. And when people are going to the store, they don't have that disposable income. They're not able to put it in their savings. And the reality is, under Trump, they had a lot more spendable income. I'm sorry, it was just better under Trump.
I mean, you were laughing through that, but I think that was nervous laughter near tears. I think you were actually close to crying.
Well, look. The media spin on this is so absurd.
It's crazy.
Julie, this is if your house is flooding and somebody says, it's okay, the hydration is going to be spectacular for you people. I mean, that's basically what they're telling us. When you dig into this Fox poll, it's really, for the Biden administration, this is a disaster. 61% of Democrats, 93% of Republicans, and 85% of independents say this is a bad economy for them. And all you have to do is look at the underlying evidence here. 61% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck. You got 20 million Americans who are not paying their utility bills. Something is clearly wrong with this economy, and the rank crazy spending of Joe Biden has really not helped matters much. The debt is going through the roof. We're at, $33 trillion of debt? That's $100,000 for every man, woman, and child in America. I don't think people fully grasp that.
Don't forget the migrants, too.
The migrants.
Not just Americans, but all the migrants
all the migrants that we also are responsible for now and that these cities are having to absorb. Right. And that's why these cities are now burdened.
And, Joey, the top two issues are immigration and inflation. And those are two things that the Biden administration has failed horribly on. He is in denial about inflation, and he's also in denial about immigration.
Yeah, let me explain how some of these affect regular Americans. And that's not to say that you guys don't know this, but regular Americans who we're talking to at home, immigration, take that for example. My dad was a brick and block mason. He charged, we'll just put a random number out there, $1.25 a block. That's what it took for him to hire 3 or 4 laborers, another mason, pay for the materials to get there, lay the block, and make just enough money on the back end that if it took an extra day or two of labor, he still made money. If Hispanics come in, and back then the 90s and 2000s, it was Hispanics, but it was southern border now, who knows? But if illegal migrants come in and they don't have to pay for Social Security disability, they don't have to pay for insurance, they don't have to pay taxes, and they can lay that block for 50 cents a block, you know what happens? My dad is forcibly retired at 56 years old and dies at 63 from probably alcoholism and a broken heart. So this issue attacked my family right head on. It attacked my dad's career. It took it away from him, left him to his worst vulnerabilities, and that's not anybody's fault but his. But I saw this issue really attack my hometown and my family. And I say that having grown up with the kids of illegal immigrants that I love and call friends and fellow Americans.
Right.
So it is an issue that's hard to wrap your hand around and have one opinion or the other, but it's an issue that attacks the lower class and lower middle class. You look at inflation, how do poor people have a chance at getting ahead in life? They borrow capital to invest in their ideas and their hard work. You can't do that if that money costs more than you can pay back.
Yeah.
And that's where we are. What's your number one means of gaining capital if you're poor and you don't have something is your home, if you happen to have paid some of it off. So we're going to borrow money at 6.5%, 7%. You can't do
Absolutely
that
not.
to take a risk on starting a business. So there's so much about this that, yeah, you can show, groceries don't cost quite as much, or energy's coming down a little bit, or mortgage rates are coming down a little bit, but the situation in its entirety looks really bleak for people just trying to get a step up.
Well, people can't, the American dream will not exist if people cannot go out and afford homes. And home prices right now are unaffordable for the majority of Americans, not to mention the interest rates.
Savings. You have to have the ability to accrue savings. But when you look at these numbers, Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, even those making $100,000 and more. This is not a sustainable situation.
No, right now in this economy, first-time home buyers are out.
Yep.
They're just completely out. They can't afford it. And home prices right now have not returned to pre-pandemic levels, and the interest rates are crazy. Now, the interest rates are supposed to be going down sometime in the spring, early summer.
They're going down from super crazy to just really crazy.
To average, but still above average, considering what we had under the Trump administration. All right, I got to move on. Coming up, New York City beefs up security before the Times Square ball drop. Plus, the Democrats' dream of minimum wage hikes is coming back to bite them. That's next.
Welcome back to the big weekend show on this New Year's Eve. The NYPD is ramping up security for the city's New Year's Eve festival. Or festivities. It's an expected 1 million visitors are expected to fill city streets in hopes of getting a glimpse of the Times Square ball drop. The Big Apple's Mayor Eric Adams insists the city, well, it's ready for tomorrow.
This is America's city, and we are proud to host this major event. Every year, thousands of people come here, and they enjoy themselves, and we only have one ask.
CB Cotton, she's live down there in Times Square. How's it going, CB?
Hi, Joey. Well, it kind of feels like the party already started, okay? We've got performers on the stage. Crowds have started to gather. Again, these performers rehearsing for the big night tomorrow. And that the ball, the iconic ball at the center of all these festivities, also got a test run this morning. Organizers say the ball has more than 2,500 crystal triangles and can display more than 16 million colors together. This creates the iconic kaleidoscope look and feel we all recognize. As for the confetti, it's actually somewhat of a labor-intensive task, Joey. 3,000 pounds of it are trucked into Manhattan and then hand-thrown from rooftops. There will be very tight security for the hundreds of thousands expected to gather, a perimeter which includes multiple checkpoints people will have to go through. The NYPD deploying thousands of officers and using surveillance robots and drones to survey crowds from the street level and from up above. We are hearing again that a pro-Palestinian protest could disrupt the festivities. Those people in these groups calling for a permanent ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war. Various social justice groups have held several of these protests during holiday events here in the city. The protests could begin with just a few hundred people and grow to the thousands, but the NYPD points to the Rockefeller tree lighting as a good example as to how secure officers can make these big events. But from the looks of it, Joey, it's going to be a fun event, and we're excited. I know you are too.
It looks like it's going to. I'm excited because I'm going to be in a hotel room, probably sleeping. But listen, I've got all the faith in the world. You're going to have a great time and bring us the right story. Thank you, CB. All right, police say the man accused of stabbing 2 teenage tourists at Grand Central Station now slashed an inmate at Rikers Island. Stephen Hutcherson was being held without bail, finally, when officers say he got up from his cot casually and used a ceramic blade to swipe at the inmate lying just feet away. Cops say it was entirely unprovoked. Added to the list of Hutcherson's extensive criminal history, including at least 17 arrests, 2 of them in the past few months. During that stabbing at Grand Central, he apparently yelled he wanted to kill all white people. Now he faces charges of what you would call attempted murder and assault and hate crimes. Doctor, I want to go to you first on this. If you had a patient that came in and for whatever reason exhibited psychological problems that would cause them to go try to kill people multiple times, maybe when they do get to jail, you don't put them in a cell with somebody they could try to kill too?
Well, also, I mean, there's so many questions here. Where did he get the weapon? But certainly, the system has failed this man. The system has also failed his innocent victims. Let's not forget that he stabbed two teenagers who were just sitting there eating lunch with their family here visiting. But over and over again, there were reports and arrests on his behavior. People questioned mental illness. He was even released on his most recent arrest on a conditional program, which that's the new thing in New York. You don't necessarily, you're not on parole, you're not in jail, but you're released on some sort of condition. So maybe it was that he get mental health treatment, maybe it's drug and alcohol treatment, like who knows?
Exactly
but at the end of the day, people are getting hurt. And this light on crime policy certainly didn't work in this case.
Julie, that condition was, the prosecutors actually asked for 30 days in jail. I laugh at that considering he pulled a gun on this guy and said he was going to kill him. So that's that may not be attempted murder, but that's right up to the line. So they asked for 30 days in jail. I guess they thought that's all they could get. The judge said, no, no, no. How about we just go ahead and release him? If he stays out of trouble for a year, we'll be okay. And we'll give him a couple of therapy sessions while we're at it. Obviously, he didn't make it to therapy in time to not go stab two innocent girls.
No, first of all, there are red flag laws in certain states in this country in order to prohibit this from stopping this from happening. And in the state of New York, we in fact have them. His ex-girlfriend says that he is mentally ill, that he is a threat to himself and to others, that he's bipolar and refuses to take his medication. So he should have been flagged from the very beginning. And for any judge to recklessly let him out, he would have still been in jail. Had he served that 30 days, he wouldn't have been on streets and free to stab those two innocent teenagers just a week ago. So this is a failure of our criminal justice system. It's a failure here in New York City because they're constantly letting criminals back out onto the streets. The recidivism rate here in New York City is skyrocketing, same as Chicago, Los Angeles, and all these other Democratic-led cities that are allowing the criminals to run the streets. So you've got the criminals and you've got the illegal immigrants and would-be terrorists. They're all starting a big old party, and the rest of us are moving the heck out.
And the city council just this last week banned solitary confinement in New York City. This is crazy. Now you see the heavy price that an innocent inmate in this case and the guards protecting them are being put at risk. This is absurd.
No, it is. And Nicole, doctor, when we look at this situation, you know, just not even a couple of 100 yards from us are going to be, you know, hundreds of thousands of people gathering tight together from all over the country. We're worried about possibly a protest that could spark. Even if the people protesting aren't trying to be violent, what's the intoxicated pushback against them in this powder keg in a city where the cops did their job 17 times. And 17 times either a prosecutor, a DA, or a judge did not back them up. If you're NYPD and you're out there with that crowd, what kind of discernment are you exercising to put your life in danger to prevent something from happening?
Well, first of all, let's also remember this isn't just big city crime that's happening. This is also permeating out into the smaller towns. In a town just next door to mine last night, there was actually a home invasion. And this is small town, you know, out in New Jersey. So we have to, people can't think that we just live in a bubble. Like crime is up everywhere. I get very nervous when I look at these big crowds for New Year's Eve for many, many reasons. One, the New York PD, they cannot do their job anymore because you have a weak DA, you have a weak AG that are refusing to put people in jail. And so you have NYPD who are just standing there, who are watching these protesters and even watching some of these criminals just get away with criminal activity, similar to what we're seeing down at the border. You actually have the Border Patrol helping people through the chain link fences because that's what they have to do right now under this administration.
And the sanctuary cities are a whole nother thing. Listen, let's just hope when Mayor Eric Adams says, leave all your money here, he doesn't mean get mugged. All right, next, a jam-packed concerts, NFL game cutaways and magazine covers. Love her or loathe her, Taylor Swift won 2023. The big weekend show takes on her banner year right here next.
Well, dangerously high waves and rough waters are wreaking havoc all up and down California's coastline for the third day in a row.
Holy! Oh my God! Oh, what the?
Glad we had the bleeper on that one. These forceful swells swallowing spectators as others are sent fleeing to safety. Fox News correspondent Christina Coleman has more as residents prep for more strong tides.
Nicole, emergency crews have conducted dozens of water rescues since Thursday as these huge waves crash against these shorelines. Take a look at this video. Powerful waves crashed over a seawall in Pacifica in Northern California, tossing folks around. It was hard for some of them to get back on their feet. And take a look at this. A giant wave slammed a beach area in Ventura County, just northwest of Los Angeles Thursday, sending people running for safety. The forecast calls for 15 to 25-foot waves in parts of California. At least 8 people were hospitalized since Thursday as the powerful waves rolled in. Fortunately, they're expected to be okay. This video shows Marine Safety Officer Nick Gibbons with Ventura Harbor Patrol getting a man to safety after his surfboard broke in the strong waves. You can see the piece of the board just floating there. The danger, though, not stopping some of the world's elite big wave surfers from as far as France and Portugal from coming to the coastal town of Half Moon Bay in Northern California for the big Mavericks competition. And back here in Los Angeles, we caught up with some surfers who were just as excited to catch the huge waves.
It's cool to come to your hometown. Normally we're flying to other places to surf over there, but when the waves get big here and everyone comes here, it's pretty cool.
A lot of guys, myself included, I'm driving up and down the coast all day looking for the perfect wave. Some people flew in from different parts of the world. There's guys coming in from other different cities, so it's the definition of a surfer constantly chasing the stoke.
Also, high surf and coastal flood warnings are in effect for this area until later this evening. Nicole?
Wow, Christina, well, those waves are big. Well, if you don't like her, you're just going to have to, yes, shake it off. Taylor Swift won 2023. Time magazine and practically every teenage girl on the planet is saying so. Sure, football fans despise those box seat cutaways of her watching her beau, Travis Kelce, at Chiefs games. But the climate crazies wish she'd just pump the brakes on her private jet travels. In fact, the singer would need to plant more than 2,200 trees to offset her CO2 damage from flying back and forth. But parents closed their eyes at the price of the family's Swifties concert tickets. And we all agree, I guess she is an icon. Her billion-dollar Eras tour and movie toppled records. She got thousands to register to vote with just one Instagram post. Plus, she apparently makes a pretty mean cinnamon roll. I mean, all of that tied into one. Julie, what do you think?
All right. I know that you all are probably down on Taylor Swift.
All Swifties here.
I have young girls, and so I have to say I did see the Eras movie, that tour, because I was not going to pay $3,000 for the ticket. So I'm like, guess what, kids? You get to see it on the big screen because Mama's not paying $6,000 for the two of you. But I have to say it was way too long. But she is an innovator. I think she's a positive role model. She's not one of those, girls that, are in Hollywood that are kind of seedy and a little slutty, if you will. I like her. I think she's sweet. I think she's very talented. And who cares if she's with Kelce? Who cares? I mean, I don't know why anyone cares. Good for her. She seems to be in love. Is that bad? Joey over here is
Joey's taking notes on everything you're saying right now.
No, look, what did you just write on your piece?
These are my notes for this segment.
Joey, but hold on. I just want to say one thing that I mentioned in the intro, but it was National Voter Registration Day.
Right.
She did one Instagram post, 35,000 newly registered voters. She has gotten more people registered to vote than any politician in history.
I think it's awesome.
Let me introduce you to Stacey Abrams. Listen, that's an inside joke for Georgians that lost both of our Senate seats. But anyway, I knew fighting my second war in Afghanistan as they carried me off the battlefield with my legs severed from a bomb, it was all going to be okay because I'd have a job one day where I could talk about Taylor Swift, I'm kidding. Listen, she is important in the sense of, like you said, she gets people to vote. People want to use all that money spent on her Eras tours like somehow that's good for the economy. I don't think those people understand the credit card debt she's responsible for because, there are the teens and tweens who parents bought
Do
tickets.
not blame irresponsible spending. That is on the spender.
My point is, if you're talking about net negative, net positive, I'm sure she's a big part of this credit card debt all these students that thought their loans were going to be forgiven racked up. So, I mean, do we know if she's actually a net positive for the economy? We don't know.
Well, look, Joey, she clearly is, and I'm not a Swiftie, but I've been in town when she blows in, to Nashville, to New Orleans, to Atlanta, and the town transforms. She is a force of economic prosperity in those towns.
Hurricanes
where she
have
goes.
the same effect.
Well, yes, but we pay for those, and these are private citizens. So, look, I'm a fan of classic American music, so give me Ella Fitzgerald or Judy Garland over Taylor Swift any day, just vocally. But putting that aside, she is an icon. She has a huge following. I'm a little concerned about the fact that she could mobilize 35,000 people to vote suddenly. They will no doubt deploy her in this next election. We saw her move against Marsha Blackburn, let's not forget, in Tennessee. She tried to have an influence there. It didn't quite work out.
Who won that battle?
And not right. Yeah. Blackburn won, and the people of Tennessee. But when you look at what she's done to the NFL, yes, she's driven new eyeballs and viewers to the game like never before. However, what other public event do we put a spotlight on the spectator and spend our time watching their reaction rather than what's happening in the arena? You don't do it on Broadway. You don't do it at the movies. We shouldn't do it at the NFL either. And the Kansas City Chiefs are having a rough season, and I don't think that's a mistake either, and you can't just shake that one off.
Well, and it's not just the little girls who are Swifties. Real quick, the members of Congress continue to quote Taylor Swift over and over again. Take a look.
As a ode to Taylor Swift, I will say we know all too well.
Once again, she's cheer captain, and I'm on the bleachers. Ticketmaster ought to look in the mirror and say, I'm the problem. It's me.
Oh my!
Oh my God, that's amazing.
You are the problem, actually.
No, I gotta say, I love her. I really do. I'm not.
She is clearly a force to be reckoned with. And by the way, if I ever saw her, I think I was a fan of hers when she was 14-year-old singing country music. She's done well for herself. So bravo. Proud of you.
My daughter, who's a singer, aspires to be like a Taylor Swift. So little girls look up to her.
I do too. I aspire to be as tall as Taylor Swift one day.
I take it
we have to leave it there, though.
We're not leaving here and going to see the Era Weekend show. In California, the Democrat Christmas dream of a $20 minimum wage is about to become a New Year's nightmare. More than 1,000 Pizza Hut delivery drivers in the Golden State are being laid off in reaction to that minimum wage hike. But California is just the petri dish of what is to come. Some 22 states are set to increase their minimum wages in the new year. Julie, this minimum wage hike in California was due mostly from pressure coming from labor unions. And my question is, have they priced their workers out of a job, given what we're seeing happening in the Golden State?
Yeah, and congratulations, Governor Newsom, for once again making a really bad plan and listening to the unions and letting the unions make those decisions for the people. Because now there's thousands of people without a job. $20 an hour is great. That is awesome. But if you can't afford it, especially with the deficit, especially with inflation right now, companies, small businesses are hurting. Pizza Hut is laying people off. Yeah. If Pizza Hut's laying people off, and that is not a small business, then you know what's going to happen. Imagine to all the small business owners who are going to have to pay $20. They can't afford to pay health insurance. People are going to end up losing their health insurance over this. It's a debacle.
And once you give $20 minimum wage to one sector, you have to give it to everybody. I mean, that is going to be the domino effect. Now, Joey, more than 500,000 fast food workers are affected by this particular minimum wage hike. McDonald's and Chipotle is already promising to raise their prices, passing it all on to consumers. My question is, doesn't this hit the very working class and middle class and poor people that you were talking about at the start of the show? Doesn't it hit them, a law that was designed to help them?
Certainly, if that happens, it will. I mean, hey, listen, I'm not going to begrudge people who are working hard and trying to be the best at whatever it is they do to earn more money and to have that opportunity. I think that's the American dream. That's the American way. Most people working in these jobs are not in a ladder climbing part of their lives later on. They're probably teenagers and young people living at home with their parents, and the job is more about teaching them responsibility than being their how they fund their lives. That's not for everyone at all, but a lot of folks it is, and that's why those jobs have traditionally been a lower paying job. I'm not an economist. I can't tell you all the ways that $20 as a mandated minimum wage will affect a state or like California or a company like McDonald's, but I will tell you this. If food costs more, and we're talking about it today because a gallon of milk costs $1 more, what happens when a Big Mac or a cheeseburger costs twice as much?
That's the point.
How, because that is how some people can afford to eat. I grew up eating Mexican food was Taco Bell because we couldn't afford it anywhere else. That's just them's the breaks. And and I go to Taco Bell now and think, man, I remember getting a lot more food for $5.
Yeah, but in McDonald's and Chipotle, you're basically pricing out the core of your customer base.
Yep.
That's the problem with this kind of government imposition. Now, Nicole, as these wage pay hikes endanger fast food jobs, now AI is set to replace them. In Southern California, again, a new restaurant, Cali Express, is set to become the first fully autonomous restaurant. They have robot chefs, delivery systems. Miso Robotics, the company responsible for this, they're envisioning these robotic delivery systems as the future of all these major fast food chains. Do you think they will be?
Well, I mean, certainly in my profession, radiology, we've been using some sort of automation for decades now. And since the year 2000, we have seen close to 2 million jobs been replaced through automation. And it's starting to move into other sectors as well. I mean, we are going to continue to lose jobs. They say that, yes, we will be creating jobs with all these new automated systems, but I think this is going to hurt people the most, that they're low and middle class. And unfortunately, not only are they not going to be able to afford the food and afford the things to buy, but they're also not going to have a job anyway.
Yeah, and this AI, I mean, it's hardly foolproof. I was amazed. I didn't realize Del Taco, Hardee's, Carl's Jr., they were already relying on AI in their drive-up operations and for orders. But the company admits 7 out of 10 orders, they use human intervention from the Philippines to help fill in the gap because the robots can't understand the people ordering.
Well, one thing
that happened to me.
Shocking.
It
happens to me every time I get on a plane.
But here's one thing that have you guys noticed at some of these drive-thrus right now, or just anywhere you go, customer service is out the door with this younger generation.
Oh
they are on their phone. Yeah, what do you want? Can I help you? Like, I almost would prefer a robot at this point.
Well,
Yeah.
a robot to deliver me somewhere else. Stick around. Big weekend flops are next, and then we have a special.
So what we call the biggest fails of this week, and we'll let Raymond go first.
Okay. My flop of the week is a case of gubernatorial cultural misappropriation. Cities across the state of Colorado are buckling under the strain of illegal immigrants swamping their shelters. As a result, according to CBS News, Denver city resources are drying up. So what's the response from Colorado Governor Jared Polis? He posted this bizarre, gringo-infused version of my pal Jose Feliciano's Christmas classic on social media. You'd better ask the kids to leave the room for this one.
Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad, prospero año y felicidad.
Oh, my. Sometimes it's best to just post someone else singing the song. Jose should get a restraining order against that guy. Look, particularly if you're incapable of pronouncing the Spanish lyrics. This shameless Latino pander only enraged the Anglo community who feel Polis is not doing enough to respond to the migrant crisis, and it's now become a comedy meme for Latinos. This is the biggest flop since J-Lo forgot her lyrics on New Year's Eve but continued singing without moving her lips. Polis should focus on housing and the migrant crisis and leave the singing to the profession.
Like you.
Julie, well.
Okay,
Sometimes.
Gypsy Rose Blanchard, okay? Despite spending years behind bars, this was a huge story this week. This 32-year-old woman who conspired with her boyfriend to kill her abusive mother in 2015, she is now a free woman. Don't expect any T-Swift, that would be Taylor Swift, Chiefs meetups, though. While she is held onto the long shot hope of meeting Taylor Swift, yeah, good luck with that, in Kansas City and staking out the Chiefs game, the state is dashing all hopes by asking the ex-con to beat it, citing security concerns and the media frenzy surrounding Gypsy. I will say this, I think this girl was wrongfully imprisoned. She was tortured by her mother.
Yeah.
It was horrible, a horrible case.
Yeah.
She pled guilty. Her boyfriend is spending life behind bars, but this is one of the toughest cases of abuse. This poor girl deserves to finally live out the rest of her life happily.
I agree.
Yeah. All right,
Maybe,
Nicole.
maybe Taylor Swift will meet
Yeah, I don't know, but she might be a little concerned.
Get her reaction. We'll get her reaction.
Yeah.
All right, well, former MSNBC host Chris Matthews claims rural voters' mindset needs to be handled similarly to, fighting terrorism.
People that didn't go to college have a pretty good rage on their hands. That's what you really want in an election is a rage. In this case, it's rural rage. They are so angry at the liberal establishment, the coastal elite. In a way, it's like fighting terrorism.
I mean, that is probably one of the most liberal elite things you could possibly do. If you didn't go to college, if you live in rural America, and you didn't vote for Biden, you're a terrorist. Right, Joey?
Yeah, well, the deer think I'm a terrorist. Some of the ducks do when I get a good shot every now and then. But outside that, I leave well enough alone. I don't know what he's talking about. All right, it sounds straight out of Home Alone, honestly. I think this kid was looking for Donald Trump to give him directions. So, Spirit Airlines firing the gate agent that put a solo flying 6-year-old passenger, well, they put him on the wrong flight. The boy was traveling from Philly, I think it was traveling to Fort Myers or somewhere like that, and he ended up landing in Orlando. And so they called his grandma to come pick him up, and but he was 3 hours away in Fort Myers, Florida. So here's what happened, guys. Maybe I read the story wrong. I think he landed in Orlando.
No, I think you're right. I think
he
landed in Orlando. He was supposed to go to.
So I'm getting a little bit confused here. But
it was a 3-hour drive to go pick him up.
Here's my conspiracy theory. The kid did it on purpose because what's in Orlando? Disney World, Universal Studios, a lot of cool places, Legoland. I mean, what's in Fort Myers, right? They're still rebuilding from a hurricane.
Grandma.
If I'm the kid, I'm going to Orlando. I mean, that's what Kevin McAllister would have done.
But how did this agent allow this minor to get on the wrong flight?
They were on their phone, not paying attention.
Yeah, they usually have everything written out.
What parent puts their 6-year-old on a plane alone? I don't care if there was an agent with them. I would never put one of my children, even my 13-year-old, I wouldn't put on a plane.
Let me tell you, I will not disparage any airline because I might need to get on one day, but I feel like if this were Delta or American, it wouldn't happen. It happened to be Spirit. We'll leave that where it is.
That's very true.
All right. If you didn't get your fill of flops, well, just don't go anywhere.
Surprise.
The biggest follies and fails of the entire 2020.
Alex Murdaugh was found guilty of murdering both his wife, Maggie, and son, Paul. His theatrics behind the scenes, his lies, and his just despicable nature. It's a good thing that he will be behind bars for the rest of his life. I do have an honorable mention because, I'm sorry, you can't end a show without talking about
coming back to
diarrhea.
That's next.
That Delta flight, yeah, I know you agree. Delta from Atlanta to Spain, and somebody decided to take a pit stop, but, not in the toilet or the head, but all over the aisle. She just couldn't hold it in. Or he. I still smell it.
What a lovely story.
You're
Fantastic.
welcome.
All right, listen. I'm going to flip this flop. This might be the most viral moment of the year. Let's take a look.
But I am telling you right now, that mother there is not real.
Listen, she's been dubbed Crazy Plane Lady. She left the country guessing about what exactly she saw on the flight. We eventually learned that the woman, her name is Tiffany, I believe it's pronounced Gomez, freaked out over a disagreement with a fellow passenger, but many still had questions. Listen, here's the flip on the flop. First of all, everybody wanted to know who she was, not whoever wasn't real was. Nobody was curious about what she actually saw. They just want to know who she was, maybe because some people found her more attractive than your random freak out person. But what I love about it is when she finally came forward, she talked about mental health. And as someone who works in the veterans mental health space, I appreciate the fact she did that. She made it about that, and I appreciate her for that.
I don't know. I see her doing a lot of PR stuff right now. I think she's trying to get famous.
To each their own, but her very first video, she talked about mental health, and I appreciate
All right, I appreciate that as well. All right, well, this summer, this is the one for me. New York City soft-on-crime DA Alvin Bragg charged Marine veteran Daniel Penny with manslaughter after he intervened to restrain an erratic homeless man who was threatening subway riders. Penny placed Jordan Neely into a chokehold, which devastatingly ended up killing him. But now he is facing manslaughter charges. You have the NYPD, you have Alvin Bragg, you have other people who are not able to protect people, but then you have this hero come out and try to protect people, and look what happens.
Yeah. Let me give my annual flop of the year. This is a big one. It's Commander Cujo Biden, the president's deadly pet, who went on something of a feeding spree this fall. Commander sampled every Secret Service agent he could get his fangs into, sending at least one to a hospital. Secret Service agents described the White House with Commander as a hostile and dangerous work environment. Then Commander was caught on camera by the Daily Mail taking a bite out of a longtime White House gardener. Well, that sent them over the edge. The Bidens finally sent their dog to an undisclosed location. You know, they say dogs reflect the temperament of their owners. I think we need to ask the question, what were the Bidens doing to this dog to make him act this way? And maybe people should consider that as they decide whether to send the Bidens to an undisclosed location. Just a thought as 2023 ends.
What a happy way to end the show. I thought diarrhea was a much higher number, right? Happy New Year. That does it.